Hi, humans. This is the second part of talking about ice water as medicine, used as medicine. Zhang Zihe, the Jin Dynasty doctor, published in the 1200s. He has a number of cases about where ice water is part of the treatment, which is shocking in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, we don't like cold things. We don't like ice, whether it's applied externally or taken internally. And so this is really unusual. He was a very unusual person. I forgot to tell you something in part one of this class, which is that the ancient Chinese, from like the Song Dynasty or Tang Dynasty, had another way of making ice besides cutting it out in the winter and storing it in an ice cellar. They also learned how to make frozen things using salt or saltpeter, which is a process I don't really understand. But if you've ever seen somebody make hand cranked ice cream, you have the inner container with the liquid of the ice cream, and then there's an outer container that has ice that's mixed with salt. And somehow that makes the ice even colder on the outside than regular ice is. So, you could look on the internet for the science of it. That's not my thing, but they did have this method of making things cold using salt or saltpeter along with some ice to make other things even colder. Okay. So today, this one is three cases that are people in Zhang Zihe's household. One is his son, one is his servant, and one is a case about himself. Okay, so uncontrollable laughter. His second son became thinner every day since divorcing his wife. Now, I don't know what happened between him and his wife, but he wasn't eating. He spoke like he was inside an earthen jar. And so like what does that mean? I did get some help on this one from Leo Locke, who's an amazing practitioner and translator. And so any mistakes are mine, but he also, I don't think he was 100% sure, but if somebody's inside a jar, they're going to sound echoey and muffled and not sound normal. Okay. And so this disease was in the middle jiao. He was getting thinner. And if he sounded like he was in an earthen jar, maybe that had something to do with the earth middle jiao diagnosis. I don't know. He constantly picked at his third finger and laughed uncontrollably. I don't know if this is relevant, but of course, the third finger has pericardium on it, which, goes to the heart. And so he's obviously having some mental illness kind of issues. This was heart fire. So for about half a year, he drank ice and snow every day. Must be ice and snow water, obviously. Um, yeah, but it just says he drank ice and snow. And every day he took cooling prescriptions that I guess his father prescribed him. Well, Dairen said, his father, Zhang Zihe, said, he will recover when he hates snow. Yeah, in other words, now that he wants to drink ice water, that shows that he has all this heat. But when he stops wanting to drink ice water, it'll mean the heat has decreased significantly. So Dairen's wife and the mother of this second son feared that he would, get like, a cold condition from drinking all this cold water. And, in general, we're told not to drink cold drinks. So, Zhang Dairen scolded her, saying, "You're my closest family. I use herbs. I'm so good at using herbs that the patient responds like a drum responds to a drumstick. In other words, you touch the drumstick to the drum and it instantly responds." So he's saying my medicine is so good that patients respond instantly to it. Yet, even I hate using cooling herbs. you seem to agree with the world that slanders me for using all of these cold herbs. So he's saying nobody agrees. And now my wife, even you, are worried that I'm that I'm doing it wrong. So she protested, but he said he was going to keep doing what he was going to do. So when the seventh lunar month came, the sun stopped wanting ice and stopped drinking it. So the seventh lunar month would be our August. You would think in August, if somebody did like ice water, they'd still like it in August when it's so hot. But he had had enough. And so the disease resolved more each day after he stopped wanting the ice water. And so that's the story. So here, yeah, he was also given cold formulas and so forth, but the ice water was a significant part of it. And, Dairen let the patient decide when enough was enough as far as the cold water went. The sagging case is called low back and hip pain, but that seems like a weird title when we see the symptoms. Sure, this patient had low back and hip pain, but it seems like other things were a bigger deal. Anyway, so he had a female servant, Zhang Zihe, and she had been on some journey during winter. I don't know if they were together on the journey or if she had gone back home to her natal family and then come back to her job, but anyway, she had been out traveling during winter. And then when he saw her, her face was fiery red, and by the time she reached a place that's called yin yang, but it's different than like actually the yang character is the same, but the yin character is different. Um, so that's not like yin yang theory thing. She reached a place that's called yin yang, and she was sick with severe pain in her low back and hips, and she also had tenesmus. So yeah, she's having some bowel issues too. When she was in pain, she saw ghosts and spirits. That's pretty intense. Her face is fiery, though, so she probably has fever, and then she may be having delirium and seeing ghosts and spirits. Dairen said, this is the Xiaoyang channel. It's minister fire on the side of the body. So there is a connection with the Xiaoyang channels and minister fire, but again, that's not for me to talk about today. So he made her take these pills. These are some pills that he made other people take last, the part one of this thing. These are pills that are going to make you have diarrhea. So she had several basins full of diarrhea, but the disease still didn't recover. Everybody thought it was something strange and that she must have an evil spirit. Because remember, she's saying ghosts and spirits. So they thought that, she was possessed by something. But Dairen very angrily said, ghosts my ass. Well, okay. This word is donkey, which is an ass, right? But it also means stupid. And this word is ghost. So I don't know how to translate this. Stupid ghosts, or, a donkey is an ass, like, but he's saying stupid, this ghost, that's what a stupid thing to say. Anyway, he's skeptical. He doesn't believe in ghosts. So he made her take 2 liang of Chawei Chengqi Tang, boiled with morning glory seed, which, is one of those that, violently makes you urinate and defecate. So she passed about 1 or 2 jars of stool and several tens of bowel movements, like she just really had diarrhea from this. At that point, Dairen stopped urging, he stopped pushing her to have these violent bowel movements. All that was left, she just felt thirsty now. So he let her do as she pleased, drinking water, eating watermelon, pears, persimmons, and so forth. So, he's letting her recover. Remember before last time we saw that he said if you induce diarrhea in someone and it doesn't stop, then you can use cold water to stop it. So he probably thought, okay, that's enough and she can drink all that. Okay. So Dairen said there's nothing like ice whenever one treats fire. Water is the ultimate yin of heaven and earth. So she drank 1 or 2 buckets of ice water, but she still felt mild pain. So he then pricked gallbladder 34 to help move the stagnation. And, in Chinese, then it's Yangling Chuan, which, is its name. That doesn't tell you it's a gallbladder channel point. So he's mentioning now that it's a gallbladder channel point. And she became peaceful from that moment onward. And the servant girl herself said, every year I usually have diarrhea 5 or 6 times, but this year I didn't have diarrhea. And so that's why she got this fever and all the other symptoms, is because like she's thinking, like his way of thinking, that you've got to get all this stuff out. So every year she has diarrhea, and she's not interpreting that as actually really disease, but as kind of preventing more serious things from happening. So, this year, since she didn't have diarrhea, then something else brewed because she didn't get all the bad stuff out of her body. Okay, that's the second. Here's the third and final one for today. Contraction of wind cold. And this is a case where Zhang Dairen himself gets sick. So he went to some place called Changxi, and he contracted cold when he was out in the snow. And then he took a bath, and he seriously contracted wind and cold. He became sick and he couldn't get up out of bed. So he simply, boiled or had someone boil this formula called Tongshen San. Let's see, where is it? Tong is past sage, communicate with the sage powder, something like that. And he took it. He took this formula. He didn't eat for 1 or 2 days. He only drank water when he was thirsty, but he didn't even drink much water. And then he frequently made somebody pound on his thighs and press on his abdomen. So some kind of massage type thing. He didn't eat for a total of 3 or 4 days, but each day he drank water 10 or 20 times. On the 6th day, he had delirious speech and hallucinations, so he must have had a pretty high fever. And then he used Tiaowei Chengqi Tang to descend himself to induce a bowel movement. It's weird. So if he's having delirious speech and hallucinations, can he get his act together enough to decide he needs Tiaowei Chengqi Tang, or had he given instructions to people around him? I don't know. His students decided to do that. Anyway, even though he's trying to descend himself, it says then he sweated and recovered. Well, sometimes if you have diarrhea, you start sweating profusely. So maybe he both had diarrhea and sweating, and then he recovered. So Dairen Zhang Zihe frequently told people, do not recklessly use herbs when treating cold damage, Shanghan cold damage. Simply drinking water is the best medicine. We saw that quote in the last episode. Here you can see where it came from. So there's some other stuff which I didn't find very enlightening, so I left it out. And then this finishes. When he was first sick, his nose was stuffy, his voice was heavy, and his head hurt. Also, his urine looked gray. And then he took some Chiaowei Chengqi Tang and felt like he was about to vomit, which again, this is supposed to induce a bowel movement, but he felt like he was going to vomit. So Dairen triggered the gag reflex in himself to get it out. He stuck his finger or something down his throat, and then he vomited. He was vomiting, and then he began sweating profusely and instantly had 5 or 6 bowel movements, which is what Tiaowei Chengqi Tang should do. He sweat profusely for a day, and then he recovered. Whenever he swallowed ice water, then he would vomit 1 or 2 bowls of phlegm. So this is saying phlegm was the disease, but when he got rid of the phlegm, the disease was also gone. And he was 61 at this time. 61, that's not super old, but that's certainly not young at that time. And yet look at, how violently he's sweating, he's vomiting, he's having diarrhea, and, he seems to think it's fine. This is his philosophy, very aggressive medicine. Anyway, that's the second one in this series. There's one more where I talk about a few miscellaneous things related to this. There are a few really short cases, and I also have a case where drinking water or ice water actually made things worse. So Zhang Dairen is not saying always drinking ice water is good. There's some cases where it's not good, according to him. Of course, according to other doctors, it's never good. But Zhang Dairen was special. So that's it for now.